Captain Sarah stared at the main screen of her cargo ship, the Meridian's Promise. Something was wrong, very wrong. "Where are the orbital platforms?" asked her second officer, Lieutenant Torres. His voice carried worry that matched what felt in her stomach. The ship's sensors showed empty space where New Eden's busy traffic control stations should be floating. No cargo ships moving between the planet and the jump points. No defense satellites blinking their friendly green lights. Just dark, cold vacuum. Had been making supply runs to New Eden for 8 years. The agricultural colony on 442C was Earth's crown jewel, home to over 2 million people. The planet grew enough food to feed 12 worlds. Its cities were beautiful, with parks and lakes that reminded colonists of home. But now, as the Meridian's Promise dropped out of hyperspace, saw only empty space and floating debris. "Run a deep scan," she ordered. "Something happened here." Torres worked at his console, his fingers moving quickly across the controls. The ship's powerful scanners reached out toward the planet below. What they found made his face go pale. "Captain," he said quietly, "you need to see this." Moved to his station. The scanner data showed 442C's surface in terrible detail. Where New Eden's capital city of Harmony once stood, there was now only a crater of melted glass. The same story repeated across the entire planet. Cities, towns, farms, all turned to smoking ruin. "My God," whispered, "what did this?" The answer came from space itself. 3 large ships appeared on their sensors, moving toward them from behind the planet's largest moon. The ships were unlike anything in Earth's databases. They were organic-looking, with curved lines and a dark green color that seemed to absorb light. "Unknown vessels approaching," Torres reported. "They're powering up weapons." Straining kicked in. "Jump drive now, get us out of here." The Meridian's Promise began charging its hyperspace engines, but the alien ships were fast. Energy beams lanced out, missing the cargo ship by mere meters. Felt the heat wash over her ship's hull. 30 seconds to jump, called out the engineer. More weapons fire lit up the space around them. Threw her ship into a wild spiral, using every trick she had learned in 20 years of flying. The alien ships followed, but they moved like they were used to fighting enemies who ran in straight lines. 10 seconds. A massive energy beam passed so close that it overloaded several of their sensor arrays. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems failed. "Jump!" Space twisted around the Meridian's Promise as she leaped into hyperspace. The alien ships and the dead world fell away behind them, but the memory burned in its mind. During the 3-day journey back to Earth, reviewed every piece of sensor data they had collected. The evidence was clear but impossible to accept. Something had used weapons of incredible power to destroy every living thing on New Eden. The attack had been thorough and deliberate. She found a data packet in the ship's communication system, something that had been transmitted to them during their brief time in the New Eden system. When she opened it, her heart broke. It was a final message from Governor Williams, recorded in the last minutes before New Eden died. "This is Governor Williams to any Earth ship receiving this signal. We are under attack by alien forces. They gave us no warning, no chance to surrender. They're calling it a cosmic correction for our unauthorized expansion into their space. Our defenses are gone. The cities are burning. Tell Earth. Tell them we died as humans. Tell them to remember us." The message ended with the sound of explosions in the background. Played the message 3 more times, memorizing every word. By the time the Meridian's Promise reached Earth, she had also discovered something else in their sensor data. Energy signatures from the alien weapons, ship configurations, tactical patterns. Everything Earth would need to identify their enemy. She thought about the 2 million people who had lived on New Eden. Farmers and teachers, children and grandparents. People who had traveled across the galaxy to build something beautiful and peaceful. Now they were all gone, Erased because some aliens decided humans didn't belong among the stars. The aliens had made a mistake, though. They had let one ship escape, one witness to carry the news back to Earth. Didn't know much about military matters, but she knew one thing about humans. They didn't forget their dead, and they never let killers go unpunished. As Earth grew larger on her screen, wondered what would happen next. The planet looked so peaceful from space, blue and white and green, with the orbital habitats spinning slowly in the sunlight. Hundreds of billions of people living their quiet lives, not knowing that humanity had just suffered its greatest loss. Soon they would know. Soon the news would spread through every human world. 2 million people gone in a few hours of senseless killing. Had seen what humans could do when they were angry, during the colony wars when pirates attacked civilian ships, during the rebellion on Titan when terrorists killed innocent people. Each time, the response had been swift and terrible. But this was different. This wasn't a few criminals or rebels. This was an alien power that had wiped out an entire world because they didn't think humans deserved to live there. As the Meridian's Promise docked at Luna Station, prepared her report, she would tell Earth's leaders everything. About the dead world, about the alien ships, about Governor William's final message. Then she would wait to see what humanity would do with its anger. She had a feeling the aliens who destroyed New Eden were about to learn something they didn't know about humans, something that would change everything in the galaxy. They were about to learn that humans protected their own. Admiral stood in the center of the Terran Defense Council's emergency meeting room, watching the holographic display show what was left of New Eden. The images Captain had brought back were hard to look at, but forced himself to study every detail. Around the circular table sat the most powerful people in human space. President Martinez of the Terran Union, Chancellor of the Colonial Federation, Fleet Admiral Jackson from Earth Defense Command, military leaders, civilian politicians, and intelligence chiefs from across human space. All of them were silent as they watched Governor William's final message play for the third time. 2.3 million people, said President Martinez quietly, gone in a few hours. Had spent 40 years in the military. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belt. He had commanded fleets during the ugly colonial wars 20 years ago. He thought he had seen every kind of violence humans could face. He was wrong. What do we know about these aliens? Asked Chancellor. Intelligence Director Harrison activated his data pad. We're calling them the Hegemony, 4 different alien species working together. They've controlled this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. According to the data Captain brought back, they see us as unauthorized colonists. Unauthorized. President Martinez's voice was getting louder. We've been expanding into empty systems for 300 years. Nobody told us we needed permission. Apparently, said Harrison, they did. They see younger species as children who need guidance. When we refused to ask for permission to colonize, they decided to teach us a lesson. Admiral Jackson leaned forward. What are their military capabilities? Harrison brought up new displays. Best estimates put their total fleet at around 200,000 ships. They have energy weapons that can sterilize planets from orbit. Their ships are fast and well defended. They've been the dominant power in this region for 10. The room fell quiet again. 200,000 ships. Earth's official military had maybe 3,000 vessels, spread across dozens of systems to protect the colonies. Watched the politicians begin to panic. He could see it in their faces, the growing understanding that humanity might have picked a fight it couldn't win. But knew something the politicians didn't, something that would change everything. Admiral, said President Martinez, I'm putting you in charge of our military response. What do you need? Looked around the room at the frightened faces. Then he smiled, and several people looked surprised. They had expected him to be worried too. "I need emergency war powers," he said. "Full mobilization authority, and I need you to trust me." "Admiral," said Chancellor carefully, "we understand you want to respond, but 200,000 ships will not be enough to save them," interrupted. The room went completely silent. President Martinez stared at him. "Admiral, what are you talking about?" Walked to the holographic projector and entered his personal authorization codes. The display changed, showing star charts that most of the people in the room had never seen before. "For 300 years," he said, "Earth has been preparing for this day. Not specifically this enemy, but this situation. The day when humanity would face an existential threat from an advanced alien civilization." New images appeared. Massive shipyards hidden in the outer solar system, construction facilities scattered through the asteroid belt, defense platforms disguised as mining stations. "The Ghost Fleet," said simply, 60,000 warships built in secret and maintained by automated systems, waiting. Fleet Admiral Jackson nearly fell out of his chair. 60,000, that's impossible, the budget alone was hidden in industrial development programs, asteroid mining projects, and deep space exploration funding, explained. "Every human world has contributed, though most didn't know it. Every time we built a new cargo ship, we built a warship too." President Martinez was staring at the display showing the massive hidden fleet. Why wasn't the civilian government told about this? "Because politicians change," said bluntly. "Military threats don't. This project was started after first contact protocols were established. The military leadership decided that if humanity ever encountered a hostile alien power, we would be ready." He changed the display again, showing technical specifications that made several people gasp. "The Righteous Fury-class battleships, 3 kilometers long, armed with quantum disruption cannons and gravitational weapons. The Valkyrie-class carriers, each capable of deploying 1,000 AI-controlled fighters, and the Reaper-class stealth destroyers, invisible to most sensors until they fire." Chancellor was reading the specifications with growing amazement. "These are more advanced than our regular fleet." "Yes," said, "because this fleet was designed to fight enemies more advanced than us. The weapons research, the armor development, the tactical systems, all of it focused on defeating a technologically superior foe." Director Harrison looked up from his own data pad. "The hegemony's intelligence networks show they think we have 3,000 ships total. They're planning their response based on that number." Smile turned cold. "Good, let them plan." President Martinez stood up slowly. "Admiral, are you telling me we can actually win this?" "I'm telling you that the aliens who destroyed New Eden just made the worst mistake in galactic history," replied. "They attacked a species that has spent 3 centuries preparing for war against exactly this kind of enemy." He gestured to the star charts. "The Ghost Fleet isn't just about numbers. It's about strategy. Every ship captain has trained for this scenario. Every weapon system has been tested against simulated alien technology. Every tactical doctrine has been refined through war games that assumed we would be outnumbered and—" The Admiral paused, looking around the room at the amazed faces. "The hegemony thinks they're dealing with a primitive species that got lucky and found some advanced technology. They're wrong. They're dealing with humans who have been planning their destruction for longer than some of their civilizations have existed." President Martinez sat back down, looking stunned. "How long will you need to mobilize this fleet?" 6 weeks to bring all ships to full readiness," said. "But I can have the first battle groups moving within days." And then turned off the holographic display and looked directly at the president. "Then we go to war, not just to defeat the hegemony, but to make sure that no alien power ever again thinks it's acceptable to genocide human beings for the crime of existing." As the meeting broke up and emergency orders began flowing out to every human world, remained behind to study the tactical data Captain had provided. The hegemony had made their first mistake by attacking New Eden. Their second mistake was letting a witness escape. Their third and final mistake would be underestimating what humans would do to protect their own. Captain Sarah stood on the bridge of her new ship, watching 60,000 warships gather in the space around Neptune. 3 weeks ago, she had been commanding a cargo freighter. Now Admiral had given her the destroyer-class ship Vengeance and made her part of something she could barely understand. The Ghost Fleet was real, and it was magnificent. Ships appeared from hidden bases scattered throughout the outer solar system. Some came from asteroid facilities that had pretended to be mining operations for decades. Others emerged from camouflaged shipyards built inside hollow moons. The largest vessels rose from massive underground construction bays that had been hidden beneath the ice of Europa and Titan. Watched the Righteous Fury-class battleship Retribution take its position at the center of the formation. 6 kilometers of armored hull bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral's flagship was a monster that made Earth's regular warships look like toys. "It's incredible," said her new first officer, Commander Park. He had been transferred from Earth Defense Command, like most of the officers now serving on Ghost Fleet ships. How did they keep this secret for so long? Was wondering the same thing. Every ship around them represented decades of secret construction. Thousands of people had worked on the project without the civilian government knowing about it. "Compartmentalization," explained Admiral's voice over the communication system. All ship captains were listening to his briefing about Operation Nemesis, humanity's response to the destruction of New Eden. Every person working on Ghost Fleet construction knew only their small part of the project. Ship designers thought they were creating theoretical models. Factory workers thought they were building components for deep space exploration. Base commanders thought they were running research facilities. Looked at the tactical display showing the alien territory they would soon attack. The hegemony controlled over 100 star systems, with their capital at Dominion Prime. Intelligence reports showed they were gathering their own fleet, confident that their superior numbers would easily defeat the primitive humans. They had no idea what was coming for them. "The hegemony's scouts have been watching our regular fleet movements," continued. "They think we're panicking, trying to gather our few thousand ships for a desperate defense of Earth. They expect us to wait for them to attack us." Instead, the Ghost Fleet was preparing to jump directly into hegemony space, using technology the aliens had never seen before. Quantum tunneling drives that could move ships instantly across vast distances without using hyperspace lanes. Studied the technical briefings on her new ship. The Vengeance was small compared to the battleships, but it was still more advanced than anything in Earth's regular navy. Its weapons could punch through shields that would stop normal energy blasts. Its armor was designed to absorb and redirect enemy fire. Most importantly, its stealth systems could make it invisible to sensors until the moment it opened fire. "Captain," came a direct communication from Admiral. "Report to the Retribution for final briefing." Took a shuttle to the massive flagship, traveling through a forest of warships that stretched beyond the horizon. As she flew between the vessels, she began to understand the true scale of what humanity had built in secret. Fighter carriers that could deploy 1,000 small ships each. Missile cruisers loaded with weapons that could track targets across entire star systems. Support ships carrying enough supplies to keep the fleet fighting for years. And everywhere, the crews were human. Not conscripts or draftees, but volunteers who had trained for this day their entire careers. Many of them had been recruited straight from military academies, told they were joining special research projects. Others had been transferred from regular duties, sworn to secrecy about their new assignments. All of them understood what they were fighting for now. The Retribution's briefing room was enormous, with holographic displays showing the hegemony's territory in perfect detail. Admiral stood before an audience of 1,000 ship captains, his expression grim but determined. "Ladies and," he began, "in 72 hours, we will begin the largest military operation in human history. Our objective is not just to defeat the hegemony, but to ensure they never again threaten any human world." The tactical plan was complex but elegant. The fleet would split into 17 battle groups, each attacking a different hegemony system simultaneously. The aliens would be forced to divide their forces, unable to concentrate their superior numbers against any single human fleet. "The hegemony has ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years, explained. "They fight like they always have in rigid formations, following tactics that haven't changed in centuries. They expect their enemies to be afraid, to make defensive mistakes they can exploit." Listened as the Admiral explained how human tactics would be different. Each ship captain was authorized to break formation when they saw opportunities. Battle groups could split and regroup as needed. Individual commanders could pursue fleeing enemies or support allies without waiting for orders. "We fight like humans," said simply. "Adaptable, aggressive, unpredictable." The briefing included intelligence reports from hegemony space. Their leadership was confident, even arrogant. They had faced dozens of younger species and all of them had either submitted quickly or been wiped out. They saw no reason to expect anything different from humans. Reviewed the data on hegemony military doctrine. Their ships were powerful, but built for intimidation as much as combat. They relied on their reputation and overwhelming numbers to make enemies surrender before real fighting began. "They've never fought a species that was actually prepared for war with them," Admiral concluded. "They've never faced an enemy that built its entire military around defeating a superior foe." After the briefing, returned to her ship to find her crew making final preparations. The Vengeance would be part of Battle Group 7, assigned to attack the industrial system of Forge Prime. Their job was to destroy the shipyards where the hegemony built their warships. As she walked through her ship's corridors, saw the determination on every face. These weren't people going to war because they had to. These were people going to war because someone had killed their friends and family, and that was something humans simply did not tolerate. In her ready room, pulled up the final message from New Eden again. Governor Williams' last words echoed in her mind. "Tell them we died as humans. Tell them to remember us." The galaxy was about to learn something new about humans. When one of their worlds was attacked, when their people were murdered for no reason except existing, humans didn't just get angry. They got organized. Looked out her viewpoint at the vast fleet surrounding her ship. 60,000 vessels, each one representing humanity's promise to protect its own. Tomorrow, they would jump into enemy space and begin teaching the hegemony a lesson they would never forget. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had gotten lucky with some advanced technology. They thought humans would panic and make defensive mistakes. Instead, they were about to face the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, humans with a plan and the will to use it. The first thing the hegemony knew about humanity's true strength was when their border fortresses simply vanished. Admiral's fleet didn't arrive through hyperspace like every other species in the galaxy. The quantum tunneling drives allowed them to appear instantly, without warning, in 17 star systems simultaneously. One moment the hegemony's sensors showed empty space. The next moment, human warships filled their screens like an unstoppable tide. Captain watched from the bridge of the Vengeance as Battle Group 7 materialized around the industrial world of Forge Prime. The planet's orbital shipyards stretched for thousands of kilometers, massive construction facilities that had been building hegemony warships for centuries. In 30 seconds, they would all be debris. "All ships, open fire," came the order from Admiral across the quantum communication network. The human fleet struck like a hammer made of pure energy. Quantum disruption cannons tore through shields that had never failed before. Gravitational weapons twisted space itself, crushing enemy ships like tin cans. The hegemony's defensive platforms tried to respond, but they were designed to fight enemies who announced their arrival and fought according to predictable patterns. Destroyer launched a spread of smart missiles at a hegemony cruiser. The alien ship tried to intercept them with defensive fire, but the missiles adapted their course in real time, weaving through the energy blasts like living things. When they struck, the cruiser's hull cracked open and atmosphere vented into space. "Target the construction bays," ordered her weapons officer. The Vengeance's main guns opened fire, sending beams of concentrated energy into the heart of the shipyard complex. Metal twisted and melted as the facilities that had built ships for 1,000 years died in minutes. Across the system, similar scenes played out as Battle Group 7 systematically destroyed everything the hegemony had built on Forge Prime. Within an hour, the industrial capacity of an entire star system was gone. But this was just the beginning. Admiral monitored the battle from the bridge of the Retribution as his 17 battle groups struck deep into hegemony space. The aliens' response was exactly what he had expected: panic, confusion, and tactical mistakes born from 10,000 years of easy victories. "Hegemony Fleet Command is trying to coordinate a response," reported his intelligence officer. "They're pulling ships from garrison duties to form a counterattack force." Smiled coldly. The hegemony was making the same mistake that every bully made when someone finally fought back. They were getting desperate and sloppy. "How many ships are they gathering?" "Approximately 50,000, sir. They're massing at Dominion Prime for a decisive battle." Perfect. Had hoped the hegemony would try to end the war with one massive fleet engagement. It would allow him to destroy their military power in a single stroke instead of hunting down scattered ships for years. "Signal all battle groups," ordered. "Phase 2 begins now. Converge on Dominion Prime." The quantum tunneling drives activated again, and humanity's scattered fleets began jumping toward the hegemony's capital system. As they moved, reports flooded in from across alien space. Border worlds surrendering as human ships appeared in their skis. Entire sectors going silent as their defense fleets were wiped out. The hegemony had built their empire on fear and superior numbers. Now they faced an enemy that was not afraid and had brought numbers they couldn't match. At Dominion Prime, the hegemony's greatest fleet waited in perfect formation. 50,000 ships arranged in the battle pattern that had defeated every enemy for. Their commanders were confident that even if these humans had more ships than expected, superior hegemony technology and tactics would win the day. They were about to learn how wrong they were. This combined fleet emerged from quantum tunnels in a sphere around the hegemony formation. Instead of the organized lines the aliens expected, the human ships moved like a living swarm. Battle groups split and reformed. Individual ships broke away to exploit weaknesses. The entire fleet flowed around the rigid hegemony formation like water around a rock. "All ships engage at will," broadcast to his fleet. The Battle of Dominion Prime began with a storm of weapons fire that lit up space for light years in every direction. The hegemony's massive ships poured energy into the human fleet, but their targets kept moving, kept adapting. Ships that should have been destroyed by the first volley instead rolled with the damage and returned fire from unexpected angles. Captain led a squadron of destroyers in a high-speed attack run against a hegemony command ship. The massive alien vessel was twice the size of Earth's largest battleships, its hull covered in weapon ports and shield generators. But size meant nothing when your enemy could hit you, and you couldn't hit back. The Vengeance and her squadron attacked from 6 different directions simultaneously, their stealth systems making them nearly invisible until they fired. By the time the hegemony ship's gunners located them, The destroyers had already launched their missiles and moved to new positions. The command ship's shields flared and died under the coordinated assault, watched with satisfaction as the alien vessels' weapon systems went dark one by one. Across the battle, similar scenes played out as human tactics proved superior to hegemony doctrine. The aliens fought like they always had in predictable patterns, following ancient protocols. The humans fought like they were born to it, constantly adapting and finding new ways to hurt their enemies. Admiral focused on the center of the enemy formation, where the hegemony's flagship hung in space like a small moon. The alien command ship was 10 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. It was the symbol of hegemony power, the ship that had led their fleets for centuries. Intended to destroy it personally. The Retribution charged straight at the enemy flagship, her massive guns firing continuously. The hegemony ship tried to turn to bring its main weapons to bear, but the human dreadnought was too fast, too maneuverable. Ship passed beneath the alien vessel's firing arc and unleashed a full broadside into its unprotected underside. The hegemony flagship broke in half, its hull unable to contain the massive explosions rippling through its interior. As it died, the symbol of 10,000 years of alien dominance became nothing more than expanding clouds of debris. Around the battlefield, hegemony ships began trying to flee. Their formations collapsed as individual captains realized their fleet was being destroyed and tried to save their own vessels. But the quantum tunneling drives gave the humans a decisive advantage. No hegemony ship could escape faster than human ships could pursue. Within 6 hours, 50,000 alien warships had been reduced to wreckage. The survivors, fewer than 1,000 ships, sent desperate surrender signals. Admiral opened a channel to the fleeing hegemony vessels. "This is Admiral of the Terran Defense Force," he broadcast. "You attacked our colony world of New Eden and murdered 2.3 million innocent people. You gave them no chance to surrender, no mercy, no consideration for their lives." His voice carried across space to the terrified alien crews. "You will receive the same mercy you showed them, none." The human fleet began hunting down the survivors methodically, destroying each ship they found. By the end of the day, the hegemony's great fleet no longer existed. But wasn't finished. As night fell over Dominion Prime, human ships took position over the planet where the hegemony's ruling council had governed the galaxy for. "Begin orbital bombardment," ordered. The weapons that had destroyed New Eden cities now fell on the hegemony's capital. Government buildings vanished in flashes of light. Military bases became craters. The palaces where alien nobles had planned humanity's destruction burned like torches in the night. When dawn came to Dominion Prime, the hegemony as a galactic power no longer existed. 6 months after the Battle of Dominion Prime, Captain Sarah stood in the memorial gardens of New Eden's rebuilt capital city. The planet was green again, with new settlements rising where the old ones had been destroyed. But the memorial gardens would remain forever, a reminder of what had been lost and what humanity had fought to protect. The inscription on the central monument was simple: "For those who came before and those who will come after." Was no longer just a ship captain. Admiral had promoted her to sector commander, responsible for protecting this entire region of space. The irony wasn't lost on her. She now commanded more ships than the hegemony had used to destroy the original New Eden. "The delegation is here," reported her aide, Lieutenant Torres. He had followed her from the old cargo ship days and now served as her chief of staff. "They're requesting protection from the raiders." Nodded. This was the new reality. With the hegemony gone, dozens of smaller powers were trying to fill the vacuum. Some were peaceful traders looking for protection. Others were aggressive species that had been held in check by hegemony power for centuries. All of them were learning that humans took their responsibilities seriously. Schedule a meeting, said, and prepare a patrol squadron to investigate the raider activity. It had taken 3 months to hunt down the last remnants of the hegemony fleet, not because they were hard to find, but because Admiral insisted on being thorough. Every ship, every base, every military installation that had participated in the destruction of human colonies was destroyed. The 4 species that had made up the hegemony were given a choice: accept human oversight and live peacefully, or follow their military into extinction. Most chose to live. But the galaxy was a big place, and humanity couldn't be everywhere at once. Had solved this problem the same way he had solved the hegemony problem, with overwhelming force and careful planning. The Ghost Fleet had become the new galactic police force, but with a crucial difference. Where the hegemony had ruled through fear and claimed superiority over younger species, humans protected everyone equally. Aggressive species learned quickly that attacking weaker neighbors would bring human warships to their doorstep within days. Walk through the bustling streets of Remembrance, the new capital of New Eden. 2 million people lived here again, but they weren't all human. Refugees from across the galaxy had come here, drawn by humanity's promise of protection. Former hegemony citizens who had fled there, traders from independent systems, even some of the alien species that had once served the hegemony as soldiers. All of them were welcome, as long as they followed one simple rule: no one hurt innocent people. "Commander," called a familiar voice. She turned to see Doctor, one of the former hegemony scientists who had helped design the weapons that destroyed the original colony. Now she led New Eden's terraforming project, using her knowledge to help heal the world her people had. "The atmospheric processors are ahead of schedule," reported. Her translator device converted her native clicks and whistles into human speech. "The soil regeneration program should be complete within 2 years. Smiled, "Good work, Doctor." It had been Sci's idea to offer amnesty to hegemony civilians who wanted to help rebuild what their government had destroyed. Most of the former alien leadership had been too proud to accept, choosing exile over cooperation. But some, like Doctor, had embraced the chance to make amends. The real challenge hadn't been defeating the hegemony militarily. It had been figuring out what to do afterward. 100 worlds suddenly had no government. Trade routes were disrupted. Entire sectors descended into chaos as old alliances collapsed. Solution was typically human. They would fix it themselves. Human administrators took over former hegemony worlds, but only temporarily. Their job was to help local populations establish their own governments and protect them while they got organized. Some worlds chose to join the Terran Federation. Others preferred independence but signed mutual defense treaties. All of them knew that if trouble came, human ships would arrive to help. His communicator chimed with an incoming message from Admiral. His face appeared on her personal screen, looking older than when she had first met him, but still carrying the same quiet determination. "Sarah," he said, "I wanted you to know the Terran Council just approved the final expansion of the protection grid. We'll have rapid response fleets covering every inhabited system within our sphere of influence." Wasn't surprised. Had been planning this network since the day after Dominion Prime fell. Human ships stationed at strategic points throughout former hegemony space, able to reach any threatened world within hours. It was expensive and required thousands of ships, but had convinced Earth that it was necessary. "Never again," he had told the Council. "Never again will any species face genocide while we have the power to prevent it." "Any word from the deep space reconnaissance missions?" asked. His expression became more serious. Third Fleet encountered another aggressive empire about 50 light-years past the old hegemony border, the Convergence. They're demanding we withdraw from their territory. Felt a familiar anger building. "Let me guess, they think we're weak because we're newcomers." "Something like that," said with a cold smile. "They sent us an ultimatum. submit to their authority or be destroyed. What was our response? I sent them a data package containing complete recordings of the Battle of Dominion Prime, replied, along with a simple message: humans protect their friends, don't make us protect them from you. The Convergence hadn't responded yet, but intelligence reports suggested they were reconsidering their aggressive stance. Word of humanity's military capabilities was spreading throughout the galaxy. Most species were deciding that peaceful coexistence was preferable to war. The smart ones remembered what had happened to the last aliens who thought humans could be bullied. Ended her conversation with and continued her tour of New Eden. The planet was thriving again, but it was different from before. The new cities were built to stronger standards, with integrated defense systems. The orbital platforms were armed and shielded. The colonists themselves had changed, becoming more vigilant, more prepared. They had learned, as all of humanity had learned, that peace was something you had to be ready to fight for. As evening fell over New Eden, returned to her command ship in orbit. The Vengeance had been upgraded since the war, equipped with the latest human technology. But more importantly, it was part of a fleet that stretched across the galaxy. 60,000 ships that had once been Earth's secret weapon were now the guardians of hundreds of worlds. The Ghost Fleet had become humanity's gift to the galaxy protection for anyone who needed it, regardless of species or politics. Looked out at the stars surrounding New Eden, knowing that human ships were patrolling among them. In the distance, she could see the running lights of a merchant convoy heading for the trade routes. Alien traders, human colonists, and refugee families all traveling safely under the protection of the Terran Defense Force. This was what the hegemony had never understood. True strength didn't come from dominating others. It came from protecting them. The aliens who had destroyed the original New Eden had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed that humans would respond like every other species they had encountered, with fear, desperation, and eventually surrender. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't expect, a species that viewed the protection of innocent life as sacred, a species that would cross the galaxy to punish those who hurt the defenseless, a species that would build a new order based on protection rather than domination. The hegemony was gone, but their legacy lived on in humanity's determination to ensure that no other species would suffer the fate they had planned for humans. As prepared her daily reports for Admiral, she thought about the 2 million people who had died here. They would never be forgotten. Their sacrifice had bought something precious for the galaxy, the knowledge that somewhere among the stars there were people who would always stand against those who preyed on the innocent. The galaxy was safer now, and it would stay that way as long as humans had ships to patrol it and the will to use them. The universe had learned a simple truth: humans protected their own. And now everyone was part of that protection.